Welcome to Stories of Impact. I'm your host, writer Tavia Gilbert, and along with journalist Richard Sergey, every first and third Tuesday of the month, we share conversations about the art and science of human flourishing. In our last episode, we met Rwandan leader Freddy Mutanguha, who shared his remarkable journey to finding meaning and forgiveness after 80 of his family members, including his parents and sisters, were murdered during the genocide against the Tutsis in 1994. Freddy's powerful and timely testimony underscored the importance of truth, remembrance, and community organizing in helping genocide victims and perpetrators find healing and peace. Today we hear again from Freddy Mutanguha and from Dr. Elizabeth Dowling about what she's learned from her research collaboration with Freddy and his team at the Aegis Trust, which works to prevent genocide and mass atrocities worldwide, and its projects supporting reconciliation across Rwanda, including the Kigali Genocide Memorial. Dr. Dowling shares how a nation with a history of polarization and violence has become a model for peacemaking. We begin again with Freddy Mutanguha, who opens with his perspective on the destructive power of hatred and the healing power of forgiveness.
Forgiveness is personal. But I have to say that forgiveness is very beneficial to whoever is giving forgiveness, and is very beneficial to whoever is receiving it, and very beneficial to the community and to the world. The gift survivors can give to the world is forgiveness. The gift you can give to yourself is forgiveness. You hurt someone, feeling that it's like you actually swallow the poison, thinking that person will die. You're killing and destroying your body and your soul yourself. And that person is living his own life. The best thing you can do is to empty yourself with anger. Empty yourself your bad feeling. You live better life. You forgive them. And then you receive those benefits from forgiveness. It's a journey. What is very important is to start the journey. If you start the journey, you feel much more relieved than you didn't start it. I think this is the best recipe to reduce polarization, discrimination, and the hatred that is going on in this world. Because if you have that element of forgiveness, if you understand the forgiveness, what it means, the prejudice reduces, but also you even start to value a human being as a human being. That value is very important, and the respect to others become much bigger when you start forgiveness. So it's very important because it may be a solution to the world to make sure that what we see today and what is going on in terms of hatred, discrimination, and polarization can be having this solution by embracing the forgiveness path.
Since 2018, Dr. Elizabeth Dowling, a research professor, has included in her study of positive youth development a focus on intergenerational trauma. Along with Dr. Jonathan Terrell, director of Tufts Generous Listening and Dialogue Center, and a forgiveness scholar whose work includes studying the stories of forgiveness, reconciliation, and justice in testimonies of survivors of the genocide, Dr. Dowling was introduced to Aegis Trust, the Kigali Genocide Memorial, and to Freddy Mutanguha. Why have Dr. Dowling, Dr. Terrell, and their colleagues at Tufts been so drawn to the study of forgiveness?
Stories of forgiveness can change the world, but they can also change individual people. We want to be able to collect testimonies in a way that we can serve the world by saying, here's what happened in Rwanda. What can we learn from what happened to Rwanda? Because it's almost a miracle, right, that it happened. But there's so many individual stories, so how can we capture testimonies that are individualized as well? So the research question is, how do we do that well in a way that honors the drama and the strength and the heroism?
Dr. Dowling is the Deputy Director at the Institute for Applied Research and Youth Development at Tufts University. And her research, she says,
it has always been about the human spirit and what and who and how the human spirit is strengthened and empowered to live a life of flourishing, but also to live a life of giving back. And that is what our lab mainly studies. What assets from the context and from individual lives can we merge together to put kids and young people on a road to positive flourishing so that they can contribute to civil society? What can our contribution be to help programs, politicians, everyday people understand the value of a program like Peace and Values that Aegis is going to develop to help put young people on their path to thriving and then contribute to civil society?
Dr. Dowling is studying forgiveness and a theory of change through the lens of the survivors of genocide.
So a theory of change is really what is the story of development that happens within an individual or a community or a nation. So if you're thinking of it from a programmer's perspective, is what activities are we going to provide to our beneficiaries so that they can do what? And so the theory of change answers those questions. Here are the activities we're creating that are usually, hopefully, based in some scientific or theoretical understanding of human development so that we can see this change happen. We're going to measure that change in these ways so that peace can happen, or so that our country can maintain a sense of peace, so that individuals can continually find a path to forgiveness. So you can have your idea about the theory of forgiveness and how it develops, right? And that it's a process where you give out and you offer something to someone, but it's also internal. We understand that. But how somebody arrives at that is completely individual. So then what does that mean for science? What does that mean if we want to capture the lessons from Rwanda and say, never again, and here's ways we can promote peace, but also forgiveness? I think that's what our journey is as scientists are to understand how to capture testimonies in a way that can also promote change, that can promote civil society, that can promote peace. That's our challenge. Like, how do we do that well? And to me also is to honor the sacredness of the stories that are there.
Dr. Dowling connects the science of forgiveness with human flourishing.
The science of forgiveness, I think, is a study in self-reflection. Is it an aspect of your being that puts you on a path to thriving or human flourishing?
Her studies ask,
what is peace? How do we maintain peace? How do we promote peace? How do we understand each other? How do we listen to each other? And the only way to really change someone's mind when it's deeply set is to do the best you can to open their mind, or at least trying to have them live in somebody else's shoes for a day. How forgiveness happens, how kids who are developing in their sense of forgiveness for themselves or between themselves and a perpetrator, how that is continuing to promote their development in a positive way. I think that's the secret to the whole thing. That's the underlying thing we need, right? Is to people to be able to sit across the table from each other, or collectively at the table with each other, or in a church or a place of worship where we come together and we understand each other. I think that's the key. And that's the key to science. It's the key to good science, is to listen well and honestly.
Dr. Dowling's studies of the oral histories of genocide survivors highlight the importance of listening to multiple generations to gain a complete understanding of the social impact of national trauma, as well as the national potential for healing, particularly for the flourishing futures of young people.
The first time that we went to the Genocide Memorial, we were there as researchers who were partnering with an organization, Compassion International. We were going to be interviewing or surveying their kids to find out what was happening in their programming that was promoting their thriving. And one of the things we wanted to understand was the reality that all these kids, their parents and relatives, were either perpetrators or survivors. So what was that intergenerational trauma or guilt that these kids are carrying around? We know that there's intergenerational impacts of poverty and trauma, but potentially guilt as well. So we were really deeply wanting to understand that so that we could be good scientists for that project. So when we went to the Genocide Museum, we were hoping to find some answers to that, because it's almost unbelievable that when you hear the stories of trauma and violence that happened in Rwanda, that the country's in the state it's in, it's hard to wrap your brain around it. It's hard to wrap your brain around forgiveness when you hear the stories like Freddy's and so many others. How is that humanly possible? So for us, I think what we've known as scientists and the way we do science in our lab, but also I think Rwanda is teaching us this more so than any other experience, is that it's such a journey for each person.
Freddy Mutanguha agrees that listening to a range of truthful voices is a key element in how the citizens of his country have knit their social fabric back together. Listening has allowed Rwandan citizens to forgive.
I would say that most of people who have seen the embrace forgiveness, they learned something from someone, which I value the human contact in this process, to understand others' experience and to hear other people who have done it and what the benefit they got from it. I'm talking from my experience, from survivors I spoke to, and those survivors who heard other survivors speaking, and they also had a desire to try it and see how it works on their own life. I think the human contact, the sharing experience in the stories, it's the most important things we can offer to the world.
Dr. Dowling agrees that this work is important because what happened in Rwanda can happen anywhere. We stop listening to each other at our own peril because what fills the vacuum is
fear of the other. Certainly part of the story that was brewing in Rwanda. It's definitely brewing here. Ignorance. And people don't listen to each other anymore. I think the loss of being a listening nation and world through social media, whatever it is, I think I attribute a lot to those three things.
That's why sites of remembrance where stories are told to willing listeners, sites like the Kigali Genocide Memorial, play a powerful role in providing an antidote to destructive fear and ignorance.
Something as complex as forgiveness, reconciliation, trauma that happens in Rwanda, I think quantitatively it doesn't honor the depth of the stories and the kind of sacredness of the loss and the beauty and strength of the forgiveness and recovery of the nation. So it is a memorial, it is a sacred site. So you almost feel it when you're walking around there, is the spirits of people who have been lost. So the memory is all around you in Rwanda. And I know the Kigali Museum does an amazing job of honoring those memories.
Another important, in fact, remarkable force for healing across Rwanda is reconciliation villages. Freddy explains.
These are villages that was formed after genocide, where perpetrators and survivors decide to come and form a village together, as they used to live side by side. So the specific villages where they become a model for reconciliation, where we have two houses close to each other. Survivor live in one house and perpetrator live in another house. And in between those two houses, we have a water tank. And that water tank actually supply water to both houses. That the symbolism of it is the fact that if we can share water, we can share life. What I learned in a reconciliation village is the fact that everyone who lived there, they're heroes. Why? These are people who went beyond the theory of reconciliation, the theory of forgiveness, and they put it into practice. I give an example. One of the survivors, her name is Maria, who lost 7 children, and the person who killed those children, they are the one she lives together as a close neighbor. So these are people who each and every morning they share life, She has children who she made after genocide. And the children of Philbert, who was actually the perpetrator, they do activities together, they play together this time as actually the forgiven families. So these are heroes. She's a hero. She shows the forgiveness in a practice. And she's happy to share it to everyone. Whenever we have a visitor, she's happy to share the experience. And there are thousands and thousands of Marias in the country, the thousands of Philbert in the country. And those people, they come together, they become heroes because they're forgiven families, and they live in harmony and peace.
Dr. Dowling finds the courage of Rwandans to tell the truth and to live together in reconciliation villages complex and heroic.
When we went to the reconciliation village, we were allowed to ask anything. And I said to one of them, "Why did you do it?" And he said he was wrapped up in the movement of his friends and his community, and he just went along with it. And he's on this journey of forgiving himself. At the reconciliation village, we saw people who had lived in the same neighborhood and had gone to a church to hide, about 500 people in a church that seated maybe 50, I think. And they were there for a week. And the perpetrators would just come in with grenades and machetes. And two of the women stick in my mind. One of them, she and her husband were the only ones to survive, and they laid on top of their children who had died. And another one was raped and had a baby and was beaten and hid. And both of them came and told stories, gave their testimonies. And right after they went, two of the men who had perpetrated these crimes on them came up and gave their testimony. And by that they said, "Here's what I did." And then explained what they had done while they were in prison and how they had spoken to each other and how they knew that they needed to ask for forgiveness. And they wanted to put themselves in a position where they were continually, every day, seeing these women and knowing the harm that they had created. And somehow having the bravery and courage to live with that guilt, and yet knowing that it was what not only they needed, but what the survivors needed. So I think insane amounts of courage is something that I learned. As Freddy said, they are all heroes. I don't know how you recover from being in either of those roles. And yet, I think also because it's like a nationwide, it's almost a movement of we are going to move on as Rwandans, not as Hutu and Tutsi. We're going to move on as Rwandans. It's like a collaborative effort of healing. I think that has helped immensely. But I think if we can capture some lessons and capture them well, I do think Rwanda has incredible story to tell. And I hope people listen.
Dr. Dowling believes that the incredible story of Rwanda can shine a light for others.
I think what is so remarkable about Rwanda is that it was neighbors committing violence against neighbors. And now it's neighbors, survivors who are finding that process, going through that process that can then turn back to them without saying, "You knew us, how could you?" Getting to a process of understanding like that it's going to heal them by offering forgiveness. When I go to Rwanda, when I hear the testimonies, I believe that reconciliation has happened and forgiveness has happened, like honestly and deeply between people. And through our research, I understand some commonalities in the lives of people who have forgiven each other. I just think there's something about Rwandans that has to be captured and captured well, because I do think that they have lessons to share the world that could potentially save us from this continuing to happen.
Freddy, too, is hopeful that his nation's radical, courageous forgiveness will be a beacon for peace across the globe, and that studies around the science of forgiveness will amplify its power and potential to offer healing anywhere people want to come back home to each other.
It was a dream to see that the forgiveness can even happen in my country. Given the number of years that happened, people hating each other, given the genocide and extent of a genocide that happened in 1994, it was a dream to say that reconciliation never happened. It was a dream to say that forgiveness can be a reality. But it is happening today. This gives me hope that this will continue. Because every day, there's something happens in a positive way. Again, it gives me hope. If it is possible in Rwanda, is it possible everywhere in the world?
If you enjoy the stories we share on the podcast, please follow us, give us a 5-star rating, and share us with a friend. And be sure to sign up for the TWCF newsletter at templetonworldcharity.org. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and at storiesofimpact.org. This has been the Stories of Impact podcast with interviews by Richard Sergey. Written and produced by Tavia Gilbert for Talkbox Productions. Senior producer Katie Flood. Assistant producer Oscar Falk. Production support by Mandy Moorish. Music by Alexander Filipiak. Mix and master by Kayla Elrod. Executive producer Michelle Cobb. The Stories of Impact podcast is generously supported by Templeton World Charity Foundation.